My name is Sarah. I never thought that an ordinary day in high school could turn into the most terrifying experience of my life. But that day, everything changed. It was early morning, and I reluctantly woke up as usual. My mom called out, "Sarah, you'll be late." I sluggishly got out of bed and started getting ready. I didn't know that this would be my last normal morning for a long time. When I arrived at school, everything seemed normal. I saw my friends Emily and Jessica standing by their lockers, laughing. I walked over to them and said hello. "Hey guys, what's up?" Emily excitedly said, "Oh, Sarah, did you hear we're going to do an explosive experiment in chemistry class today?" I laughed and said, "Yeah, I hope Mr. Johnson doesn't burn his eyebrows like last time." We all laughed and headed to our first class. So far, everything was normal. But we didn't know that in a few hours our lives would change forever. The morning classes flew by. Math, history, and then English literature. It was just before lunch when everything started. I was in Miss Anderson's class, and we were discussing Romeo and Juliet. Suddenly, the school's loudspeaker startled everyone. "Attention, attention. This is an emergency situation. The school is going into complete lockdown. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. All students and staff must immediately go to the nearest classroom or office and lock the doors. Stay quiet and wait for further instructions." My heart started racing. I exchanged terrified looks with Emily, who was sitting next to me. She had gone pale too. Ms. Anderson quickly went to the door and locked it. Then, with a trembling voice, she said, "Children, stay calm. Everyone go to the back of the class and take shelter under the desks." With the shaking hands, I took my phone out of my pocket. I wanted to text my mom, but I realized we had no signal. It seemed all communications had been cut off. Minutes passed slowly. We could hear footsteps from the hallway. Sometimes we heard screams or cries. We didn't know what was happening. Had someone entered the school? Were we in danger? After about half an hour, the sound of gunfire made us all jump. Some of the girls started crying. Miss Anderson tried to keep everyone calm, but she was scared too. Suddenly, we heard footsteps outside our classroom door. We all held our breath. A man's voice shouted, "Open up." "I know you're in there," Miss Anderson said in a shaky voice. "Everyone be quiet. Don't move." The banging on the door got louder. My heart was about to burst out of my chest. Emily grabbed my hand and squeezed it. I could see tears streaming down her face. Suddenly, another gunshot rang out, this time closer. And then, silence. A deathly silence that seemed to last for hours. I don't know how long we stayed like that. Maybe an hour, maybe more. Every second felt like a lifetime. My whole body was shaking with fear, and I tried to muffle the sound of my breathing. Finally, the loudspeaker came on again. "All clear is announced. The danger is past. Please calmly and orderly exit the building. Security forces will guide you." Ms. Anderson cautiously opened the door. The hallway was full of police and security forces. They quickly led us out of the building. Outside, it was a scene of chaos and horror. Worried parents, ambulances, reporters. Later, we found out what had happened. A former student had entered the school with a gun. He had injured 2 people before the police took him down. But the emotional damage he inflicted on all of us was something that stayed with us for a long time. That day, my life and the lives of my friends changed forever. School was never the same again. Every loud noise scared us. Every stranger looked suspicious. At night, I had nightmares about that day. The gunshots, the screams, the fear, all of it was etched into my mind. Long-term counseling was necessary for us to cope with this experience. But this wasn't the end of the story. In the weeks following the incident, I noticed strange things. Sometimes I felt like someone was following me. I saw shadows that seemed to move. I heard voices with no clear source. One day, as I was walking home from school, I felt like someone was behind me. I turned around but saw no one. I quickened my pace. I could hear heavy breathing behind me. When I got home, I slammed the door shut and locked it. My heart was pounding. I told my mom, but she thought it was all due to post-traumatic stress. Maybe she was right, but I was sure something had changed. At school, everything had changed. More security cameras had been installed. Armed guards patrolled the hallways. Every day before entering school, our bags were checked. We felt like we were in a prison, not a school. Emily was no longer the cheerful, lively girl she used to be. She was often quiet and withdrawn. If you enjoyed it so far, please hit the subscribe button if you liked the video. One day, as we were walking home together, she suddenly stopped and said, "Sarah, sometimes I think that day something came out of the school with us. Something dark and scary." Her words sent chills down my spine, because I felt the same way. It was as if a shadow had fallen over our lives that we couldn't escape. One night, as I was studying for tomorrow's exam, I heard a strange noise from outside my room. It sounded like a rustling. I thought maybe it was our cat, but when I opened the door, I saw nothing. I went back to my room and tried to focus on my studies, but the sound continued. This time, it seemed to be coming from inside my closet. I fearfully approached the closet. I reached out to open the closet door. My heart was about to jump out of my mouth. When I opened it, something quickly passed by me and went under the bed. I screamed and ran out of the room. My parents came rushing in. They searched everywhere but found nothing. They said I must have imagined it, but I was sure I had seen something. Days passed and strange things continued to happen. Sometimes my things would move around. Sometimes I heard weird noises. And always, that feeling of fear and anxiety was with me. At school, rumors had spread. Some said the ghost of the attacker was wandering the school. Others said we were cursed. Whatever it was, we all knew something had changed. One day, as I was studying in the school library, I heard a familiar voice. It was the voice of the man who had shouted outside our classroom that day. I looked up and for a moment, I saw a shadow passing between the bookshelves. My heart stopped. I grabbed my books and quickly ran out of the library. I told the school counselor. She suggested that maybe it would be better for me to go to another school for a while. But I didn't want to. I felt that if I ran away, that dark thing would follow me. One night, when everyone was asleep, I heard a whispering from downstairs. I quietly got out of my bed and went towards the stairs. My heart was pounding. When I reached the bottom of the stairs, I saw something that froze the blood in my veins. In the living room, I saw shadows that seemed to be talking to each other. One of them looked like the attacker who had invaded the school. The other, I can't describe it. It wasn't something I could understand. I just know that when it turned towards me, its eyes were like two black pits. I screamed and ran to my room. When my parents came, the shadows had disappeared, but I knew they were real. The next day, Emily called me. Her voice was shaking. She said she had a strange dream last night. In her dream, we were at school, but the hallways were dark and maze-like. We could hear footsteps following us. When we turned around, we saw the attacker, but this time something was different about him. His eyes were black, and his skin seemed to be rotting. My heart sank. This was exactly what I had seen last night. Was it possible that we had both experienced the same thing? We decided to talk to Jessica. She also confessed that she had experienced strange things. Voices coming from the walls. Shadows she saw in the corner of her room. The three of us decided we had to do something. We couldn't let this situation continue, but we didn't know what to do. One day, as we were researching in the school library, we came across an old and strange book. Its title was Wandering Spirits and Ancient Curses. In it, we read a story that was very similar to our experience. The story of a school that had been possessed by angry spirits after a violent incident. The book said that to break this curse, we had to confront the spirits and help them find peace. But this was dangerous. If we failed, we might be trapped in the spirit world forever. We decided we had to do this. The next night, when everyone had left, we returned to school. Using a key we had stolen from the principal's office, we entered the building. The hallways were shrouded in darkness. We could hear faint moans and screams coming from the walls. We moved forward, step by step, holding hands tightly. Suddenly, we heard a familiar voice. It was the voice of the attacker. "Why did you come here? This is not your place." Our hearts were pounding, but we knew we had to continue. Emily said in a trembling voice, "We're here to help. We know you're a victim too." A heavy silence fell. Then, a shadow emerged from the darkness. It was the attacker, but now we could see the pain and suffering in his eyes. He started talking. He told us about his difficult life, how he had been abused, how he felt he had no other choice. Tears had gathered in our eyes. Jessica took a step forward and said, "We're sorry no one was there to help you, but we're here now. We want to help you find peace." Suddenly, a bright light filled the room. We felt as if a weight had been lifted from our shoulders. When the light faded, the shadow had disappeared. The three of us, tired but feeling at peace, left the school. We knew we had done the right thing. After that night, strange things stopped happening at school. The nightmares gradually disappeared, but we never forgot that experience. This incident taught us that sometimes our biggest fears come from the pain and suffering that others have endured, and that with empathy and understanding, we can calm even the darkest spirits. Now, whenever I pass by the school, I smile, not out of fear, but remembering how, with the help of my friends, we were able to overcome our fears and bring peace to a troubled soul.